Mornings in the New World always seemed to start with a serene, almost endless peace. Sunlight from the ocean would touch the wooden houses clustered together. Harbors buzzed with the calls of sailors, and families went about their daily routines. But beneath this simple beauty, a silent current was flowing. It felt as if the very land and sky were holding their breath, waiting for a great change that no one could yet name. By then, the North American colonies had existed for over a century. The people here were no longer exiled families, completely reliant on goods and orders from the mother country. They had become true residents of this vast land, people who built homes, cultivated fields, established neighborhoods, and created a new economy from their own labor. This fostered a powerful, growing sense of autonomy. The problem was, this autonomy wasn't matched with the right to decide their own destiny. The government across the ocean kept passing laws and imposing taxes without any input from the colonists. For years, most people tried to comply, believing these conflicts could be settled through reason. But then, a series of new decrees appeared, and the colonists' fragile patience began to crack. In Boston, a bustling hub for merchants and sailors, tension grew like the winter waves. When a new tax law was passed, people were upset not just about the money, but because they had no say in the matter. That was what truly stung the pride of those who had poured their sweat and hopes into this land. A brewer and influential activist named Samuel Adams began holding small meetings. He didn't call for violence. Instead, he spoke of a simple but powerful idea: the right of the people to self-determination. These meetings took place in taverns, private homes, even old warehouses along the harbor. Each gathering was like a small spark falling onto the dry tinder of widespread discontent. Similar voices began to rise not just in Boston, but in Philadelphia, New York, and Charleston. Each place had its own unique circumstances, but the feeling was the same. A sense of injustice was casting a shadow over their daily lives. Meanwhile, Benjamin Franklin, a brilliant thinker, scientist, and skilled diplomat, was trying to keep the peace. He firmly believed that stability benefited both sides and that dialogue could prevent a future of division. But his efforts became increasingly difficult as more and more hardline decisions were made across the ocean. Then came the Boston Tea Party. To many observers, it was just a group of angry colonists throwing goods into the sea to protest a tax. But to the people living there, it became a symbol of their refusal to be forced into submission. As the tea chests sank beneath the cold harbor water, a new chapter of history was silently unfolding. When news of the event reached England, the response was swift and punitive. New laws were passed, severely restricting trade and curbing the liberties of the city of Boston. While some colonists blamed the protesters for provoking the crown, many others began to see the urgent need to unite for their own survival. Down in Virginia, a land of vast plantations and farming families, a quiet man named George Washington watched the unfolding events with deep concern. He wasn't one for political arguments, but he possessed a powerful quality, a profound sense of duty. Having served in the militia, Washington understood that if the conflict escalated, the colonies would desperately need organization and leadership. But even he couldn't have imagined what was about to happen. In the spring of 1775, at Lexington and Concord, the first shots rang out. To this day, no one knows for sure who fired first. Some say it was an accident, others, a misunderstanding. But whatever the cause, that moment ripped apart the fragile veil of peace. For the first time, the colonists were confronted with the reality that their struggle would not be confined to meeting rooms and debates. Local militiamen, dressed in mismatched clothes and armed with simple hunting rifles, rallied to defend their communities. They weren't a professional army, but their spirit stunned the veteran officers they faced. From Lexington and Concord, the spark of rebellion ignited. Militias began to form everywhere. They were farmers, blacksmiths, and shopkeepers. Many had never seen a battlefield in their lives. But despite their inexperience, they shared a powerful conviction. They were defending the freedom of their families and their homes. The colonies quickly realized that to survive, they had to unite. The Second Continental Congress convened in Philadelphia, where the debates were more heated than ever. Some delegates still hoped for reconciliation, but most now understood that conflict was inevitable. After days of intense discussion, a momentous decision was made. They would form a unified Continental Army. George Washington was nominated to be the commander-in-chief of this new force. When he entered the meeting hall in his full military uniform, his presence brought a sense of confidence and gravity to the room. He wasn't known for eloquent speeches, but for a calm, resolute spirit. Washington accepted the immense responsibility with a mix of humility and determination. He understood that from that moment on, the fate of millions would rest on his shoulders. While Washington began the monumental task of organizing an army, militia groups continued their siege of the British forces in Boston. A major battle erupted at Bunker Hill. There, the colonists showed incredible resilience. Although they were eventually forced to retreat due to a lack of ammunition, the moral victory was theirs. The strength they displayed proved they could not be underestimated. After this battle, a new confidence spread throughout the colonies. People began to truly believe they could defend their ideals, but they also understood that the war ahead would be long and would demand the sacrifice of a generation. Washington traveled to Boston to take command of the besieging forces. He walked along the lines, meeting the groups of soldiers, personally instructing them on organization and discipline. For the men, Washington's presence was like a beacon of light in the encroaching darkness, and in the midst of this chaos, the colonies began to think about the unspoken question: could they become an independent nation? Could they write their own chapter of history for themselves? That was the question that would change everything. And so, in the echoes of those first shots, a new nation began to take shape, not from ambition, but from the simple, powerful desire to live with dignity and in freedom. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe for the next chapter in this incredible story.